Good morrow, scholars. Welcome back to the sorry. Welcome back to Stormfront with one of the Dresden files. Oops. Okay, so I didn't record anything yesterday because my mom needed help getting the kittens on the one cat outside had inside the house to not drown them. See, they have fleas, and she needed help getting them to stay in the water long enough to drown the fleas. So I was doing that all morning. They're cute kittens. If I can, I should go get them and bring them to show you guys. They're adorable. Unfortunately, we've literally lost one. It seems we're not sure where she could have gotten to, and it's upsetting because she looked the most like my cat Frida. I've mentioned her before, and she'd been on some of my videos. And we're pretty sure she got picked up by somebody because they've been going all up and down the alley. But we're keeping an eye out for her just in case. Anyway, before I get too much more distracted, I found another book to read. So there's that. I was going to buy this other one. It's from the same series. It's a prequel, though. But it was $15. It was a hardback. And then we had, it's at my store, we had a box set of 3 books for $20. So I thought I'd go ahead and get those and read at least the first one. And then we could read the prequel later. Well, I'll read the first chapter today, and we'll see. What was I going to say? We'll see how it is, and then maybe I'll just read the prequel first. Anywho, we are on chapter 8, page 87. So close. By the time I got home, it was after 2 o'clock in the morning. The clock in the Beetle didn't work, of course, but I made a pretty good guess from the position of the stars and the moon. It's always a good time. I was strung out, weary, and my nerves are stretched as tight as guitar strings. I didn't think sleep was likely, so I decided to do a little alchemy to help me unwind. I've often wished that I had some suave, socially acceptable hobby that I could fall back on in times like this. You know, play the violin. Or was it the viola? Like Sherlock Holmes. Or maybe twiddle away on the pipe organ like the Disney version of Captain Nemo. Almost said hook. But I don't. I'm sort of the arcane equivalent of a classic computer geek. I do magic in one form or another, and that's pretty much it. I really need to get a life. One of these days. I live in a basement apartment beneath a big, roomy old house that has been divided up into lots of different apartments. The basement and the sub-basement below it are both mine, which is sort of neat. I'm the only tenant living on the 2 floors, and my rent is cheaper than all the people who have who have whole windows. There we go. The house is full of creaks and sighs and settling boards, and time and lives have worn their impressions into the wood and the brick. I can hear all the sounds, all the character of the place, above and around me, all through the night. It's an old place, but it sings in the darkness and is, in its own quirky little way, alive. It's home. It's nice. Mister was waiting for me at the bottom of the stairs that led down to the apartment's front door. Mister is an enormous gray cat. Aw, Frida. I mean, she wasn't enormous, but she was so fat. I could still hear her at night. Okay, I'm depressing myself. What was I mean enormous. There are dogs smaller than Mister. He weighs in at just over 30 pounds. That is actually pretty big for a cat. I have one cat. He's close to 20-something, I think. He's huge. He's almost as big as my dog Jessie. Of course, Jessie's a smaller breed of dog. She's a Catahoula herding dog. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Anyway, I should get a video of her. She's so old. She should be 19 this year. She's so angry. And there isn't an undue amount of fat on his frame. I think maybe his father was a wildcat or a lynx or something. I had found Mr. in a garbage can about 3 years before, a mewling kitten, with his tail torn off by a dog or a car. I was never sure which. But Mr. hated both and would either attack or flee from them on sight. Mr. had recovered his dignity over the next few months, and shortly came to believe that he was the apartment's tenant, and I was someone he barely tolerated to share the space with him. Right now, it sounds like a cat. Right now, he looked up and growled at me in an annoyed tone. I thought you had a hot date, I told him. He sauntered over to me and rammed one shoulder playfully against my knee. I wavered, recovered my balance, and unlocked the door. Mr., as is just due, entered before I did. My apartment is a studio, one not too large room with a kitchenette in the corner and a fireplace to one side. There's a door that leads to the other room, my bedroom and bathroom, and then there's the hinged door in the floor that goes down to the sub-basement. Dexter's that, anyway. I've got things pretty heavily textured. There are multiple carpets on the floor, tapestries on the walls, a collection of knickknacks and oddities on every available surface, my staff and my sword cane in the corner, and several bulging bookshelves which I really will organize one day. That sounds delightful. Mr. went to his spot before the fireplace and demanded that it be made warm. I obliged him with a fire and lit a lamp as well. Oh, I have lights and so on, but they foul up so often it almost isn't worth turning them on. And I'm not even about to take chances with the gas heater. Smart man. I stick with the simple things, the fireplace and my candles and lamps. I have a special charcoal stove and a vent to take most of the smoke out, though the place smells a little of wood smoke and charcoal no matter what I do. Still, that sounds amazing. How many of you guys would love to have an apartment like that? Or even a house? I know what I must do. I took off my duster and got out my heavy flannel robe before I went down into the lab. That's why wizards wear robes, I swear to you. What? I swear to you. It's just too darned cold in the lab to go without one. I clambered down the ladder to the lab, carrying my candle with me. I lit a few lamps, a pair of burners, and a kerosene heater in the corner. The lights came up and revealed a long table in the center of the room. Other tables against three of the walls around it, and a clear space at one end of the room where a brass circle had been laid out on the floor and fastened into the cement with U-shaped bolts. I almost said U-shaped bolt. Shelves over the tables were crowded with empty cages. Boxes, Tupperware, jars, cans, containers of all descriptions, a pair of unusual antlers, a couple of fur pelts, several musty old books, a long row of notebooks filled with my own cramped writing, and a bleached white human skull. This sounds a lot like my room. I feel like I should give some context. Bob, I said. I started clearing space off of the center table, dumping boxes and grocery sacks and plastic tubs over the brass circle on the floor. I needed room to work. Bob, wake up. There was a moment of silence while I started getting some things down from the shelves. Bob, I said louder. Come on, lazy bones. Sounds like a joke I would make. But what? Yeah. A pair of Lights came up in the empty sockets of the skull, the oranges flickering like candle flames. It isn't enough, the skull said, that I have to wake up. I have to wake up to bad puns. What is it about you that you have to make the bad puns? Quit whining, I told him cheerfully. We've got work to do. Bob the Skull grumbled something in Old French, I think, though I got lost when he got to the anatomical improbabilities of bullfrogs. Is that because he's not sure of what he's saying in Old French? And so that's what he thinks he said? Or what? I don't know. He yawned and his bony teeth rattled when his mouth clicked closed again. Bob wasn't really a human skull. He was a spirit of air. Sort of like a fairy, but different. Like a nymph? He made his residence inside the skull that had been prepared for him several hundred years ago, and it was his job to remember things. For obvious reasons, I can't use a computer to store information and keep track of the slowly changing laws of quasi-physics. Quasi? I don't know. That's why I had Bob. He had worked with dozens of wizards over the years, and it had given him a vast repertoire of knowledge. That and a really cocky attitude. Blasted wizards, he mumbled. Phew. I can't sleep, so we're going to make a couple of potions. Sound good? Like I have a choice, Bob said. What's the occasion? I brought Bob up to speed on what had happened that day. He whistled. No easy trick without lips. And said, sounds tricky. Oh, sticky. Sorry, I can't read. Sticky. Pretty sticky, I agreed. Tell you what, he said. Let me off a ride and I'll tell you how to get out of it. That made me wary. Bob, I let you out once, remember? He nodded dreamily, scraping bone on wood. The sorority house, I remember. I don't know. I snorted and started some water to boiling over one of the burners. You're supposed to be a spirit of intellect. I don't understand why you're obsessed with relations. Bob's voice got defensive. It's an academic interest, Harry. Oh yeah? Well, maybe I don't think it's fair to let your... Dang it. Academia. Macadamia? Go peeping in other people's houses. Wait a minute. Dang it. I forgot the pronunciation again. Academia doesn't just peep. I held up a hand. Save it, I don't want to hear it. He grunted. You're trivializing what getting out for a bit means to me, Henry. You're insulting my masculinity. Bob, I said, you're a skull. You don't have any masculinity to insult. Oh yeah? Bob challenged me. Pot kettle black, Harry. Have you gotten a date yet? Huh? Most men have something better to do in the middle of the night than play with their chemistry sets. Like Snape. As a matter of fact, I told him I'm set up for Saturday night. Bob's eyes fluttered from orange to red. Ooh, he leered. Is she pretty? Dark skin, I said. Dark hair, dark eyes, legs to die for. Smart. Attractive, and I don't know. Bob chortled. Think she'd like to see the lab? Get your mind out of the gutter. No, seriously, Bob said. If she's so great, what's she doing with you? Oh, man, how do you pronounce this guy's name? You aren't exactly Sir... I'm just going to call him Gavin, because I think that's what it was. Let me know if you remember. You know, it was my turn to get defensive. She likes me, I said. Is that such a shock? Yes. For me, it would be. Harry, Bob drawled, his eye lights flickering smugly. What you know about women, I could juggle. It took me a second to make the connect. Okay. I stared at Bob for a moment and realized with a somewhat sinking feeling that the skull was probably right. Not that I would admit it to him, not in a million years, but he was. We're going to make an escape potion. That sounds weird. I told him. I don't want it to be all night, so can we get to work? Huh. I can only remember about half the recipe. There's always room to make two if you're making one, Harry. You know that. That much was true. The process of mixing up an alchemical potion is largely stirring, simmering, and waiting. You can always get another one going and alternate between them. Sometimes you can even do 3, though that's pushing it. Okay, so we'll make a copy. Oh, come on, Bob chided me. That's dull. You should stretch yourself. Try something new. Like what? Bob's eye sockets twinkled cheerfully. I love potion, Harry. If you won't let me out, at least let me do that. The spirits know you could use it, and... No, I said firmly. No way. No love potion. Fine, he said. No love potion. No escape potion either. Bob, I said warningly. Bob's eye lights winked out. I growled. I was tired and cranky and under the best of circumstances. I'm not exactly a type A personality. I stopped over, picked up Bob by the jaws, and shook him. Hey, I shouted. Bob, you come out of there, or I'm going to take the skull and throw it down the deepest well I can find. I swear to you, I'll put you somewhere where no one will ever let you out again. Bob's eyes winked on for a moment. No, you won't. I'm far too valuable. Then they winked out again. I gritted my teeth and tried not to smash the skull into little pieces on the floor. I took deep breaths, summoning years of wizardly training and control not to throw a tantrum and break the nice spirit to little pieces. Instead, I put the skull back on the shelf and counted slowly to 30. Could I make the potion by myself? I probably could, but I had the sinking feeling that it might not have precisely the effect I wanted. Oh, my goodness. Potions were a tricky business, and a lot more relied upon precise details than upon intent, like in spells. And just because I made a love potion didn't mean I had to use it, right? It would only be good for a couple of days. Oh no. In any case, surely not through the weekend. How much trouble could it cause? A struggle to rationalize the action. It would appease Bob and give him some kind of vicarious thrill. Love potions were about the cheapest things in the world to make, so it wouldn't cost me too much, and I thought, if Susan should ask me for some kind of demonstration of magic, as she always did, I could always... No, that would be too much. That would be like admitting I could get a woman to like me on my own. And it would be unfair, taking advantage of the woman. What I wanted was the escape potion. I might need it at Bianca's place, and I could always use it if worse came to worse to make a getaway from Morgan and the White Council. I would feel a lot better if I had the escape potion. Okay, Bob, fine, you win. We'll do them both, alright? Bob's eyelights came up warily. You sure? You'll do the love potion, just like I say? Don't I always make potions like you say, Bob? What about the diet potion you tried? Okay, that one was a mistake. And the anti-gravity potion, remember that? We fixed the floor. It was no big deal. And the... Fine, I growled. You don't have to rub it in. Now cough up the recipes. I want to know! Bob did so, in fine humor. For the next 2 hours, we made potions. And for the next 2 hours, we made potions, sorry. Potions are all made pretty much the same way. First, you need a base to form the essential liquid content. then something to engage each of the senses, and then something for the mind and something else for the spirit. 8 ingredients, all in all, and they're different for each and every potion, and for each person who makes them. Bob had centuries of experience, and he could extrapolate the most successful components for a given person to make into a potion. He was right about being an invaluable resource. I had never even heard of a spirit with Bob's experience, and I was lucky to have him. Huh. That didn't mean I didn't want to crack that skull of his from time to time, though. The escape potion was made in a base of 8 ounces of Jolt Cola. We added a drop of motor oil for the smell of it. I cut up a bird's feather into tiny shavings for tactile value. 3 ounces of chocolate-covered espresso beans, ground into powder, went in next. Then a shredded bus ticket I'd never used for the mind. Huh. And a small chain which I broke and then dropped in for the heart. I unfolded a clean white cloth where I had a flickering shadow stored just for just such an occasion, there we go, and tossed it into the brew and opened up a glass jar where I kept my mouse scampers and tapped the sound out into the beaker. Huh. Where the potion was brewing. You sure this is going to work, Bob? I said. Always. That's a super recipe there. Smells terrible. Bob's lights twinkled. They usually do. What's it doing? Is this the super speed one or the teleportation version? Bob coughed. Now I have to. But I won't. A little of both, actually. Drink it, and you'll be the wind for a few minutes. The wind? I haven't heard of that one before, Bob. I am an air spirit, after all, Bob told me. This'll work fine, trust me. You know, I still haven't watched the show, so I don't know if Bob is in it, or even what he sounds like. I want to watch the first episode today, I think, just to see what it's like. I grumbled and set the first potion to simmering, then started on the next one. I hesitated after Bob told me the first ingredient. Tequila? I asked him skeptically. Are you sure on that one? I thought the base for a low potion was supposed to be champagne. Champagne, tequila, what's the difference so long as it'll lower her inhibitions? I don't like this guy that much. I'm thinking it's going to get us a sleazier result. Hey, Bob protested. Who's the memory spirit here? Me or you? Well, who's got all the experience with women here? Me or you? Bob? Harry? Bob lectured me. I was seducing sheep herdesses when you weren't a twinkle in your great grand ancestor's eyes? I don't know. I think I know what I'm doing. I sighed, too tired to argue with him. Okay, sheesh. I haven't said sheesh in forever. I always liked Kermit the Frog. What was I saying? Tequila. Oh great, now that song's stuck in my head. I got down the bottle, measured 8 ounces into the beaker, and glanced up at the skull. Right. Now 3 ounces of dark chocolate. Chocolate? I demanded. Chicks are into chocolate, Harry. I muttered, more interested in finishing than anything else. I measured out the ingredients. I did the same with a drop of perfume, some name brand imitation that I liked. An ounce of shredded lace, and the last sigh at the bottom of the glass jar. I added some candlelight into the mix, and it took on a rosy golden glow. Great, Bob said. That's just right. Okay, now we add the ashes of a passionate love letter. I blinked at the skull. Bob, I'm fresh out of those. Bob snorted. How did I guess? Look on the shelf behind me. I did and found a pair of romance novels, their covers filled with impossibly delightful flesh. Ugh. Hey, where did you get these? My last trip out, Bob answered blithely. Page 174, the paragraph starts with, her milky white nipple. Tear that page out and burn it and add those ashes in. I choked. Will that work? Hey, women eat these things up. Trust me. Fine, I said, or sighed. This is the spirit ingredient? Uh-huh, Bob said. He was rocking back and forth on his jawbones in excitement. Now, just a teaspoon of powdered diamond and we're done. I rubbed at my eyes. Diamond? I don't have any diamonds, Bob. I figured you're cheap. That's why women don't like you. Look, just tear up a 50 into real little pieces and put that in there. A $50 bill? I demanded. Money, Bob opined, but very attractive. I muttered and got the remaining 50 out of my pocket, shredding it and tossing it in to complete the potion. The next step was where the effort came in. Once all the ingredients were mixed together, you have to force enough energy through them to activate them. It isn't just the actual physical ingredients that are important. It's the meaning that they carry, too, the significance that they have for the person making the potion, and for those who will be using it. Huh. The energy from magic comes from a lot of places. It can come from a special place, usually some spectacular natural site like Mount St. Helens or Old Faithful, from a focus of some kind, like Stonehenge is on a large scale, or from inside of people. The best magic comes from the inside. Sometimes it's just pure mental effort, raw willpower. Sometimes it's emotions and feelings. All of them are viable tinder to be used for the proverbial fire. I had a lot of worry to use the fuel to fuel the magic, and a lot of annoyance and one heck of a lot of stubbornness. I murmured, "Dang it! No." Anyway, the requisite quasi-Latin litany over the potions over and over, feeling a kind of resistance building, just out of the range of the physical senses, but there nonetheless. Okay, what? I gathered up all my worry and anger and stubbornness and threw them at the resistance in one big ball, shaping them with the strength and tone of my words. The magic left me in a sudden wave, like a pitcher abruptly emptied out. I love this part, Bob said, just as both potions exploded into puffs of greenish smoke and began to froth up over the lips of the beakers. I sagged onto a stool and waited for the potions to fizz down, all the strength gone out of me, the weariness building up like a load of bricks on my shoulders. Once the frothing had settled, I leaned over and poured each potion into its own individual sports bottle with a squeeze top, then labeled the containers with a permanent magic marker, very clearly. I don't take chances in getting potions mixed up anymore, ever since the invisibility hair tonic incident from when I was trying to grow out a decent beard. You won't regret this, Harry, Bob assured me. That's the best potion I've ever made. I made it, not you, I growled. I was really exhausted now, way too tired to let petty concerns like possible execution keep me from bed. Sure, Bob agreed. Whatever, Harry. I went around the room, putting out all the fires in the kerosene heater, and climbed the ladder back to the basement. Without saying goodnight, Bob was chortling happily to himself as I did. I stumbled to my bed and fell into it. Mister always climbs in and goes to sleep draped over my legs. I waited for him, and a few seconds later he showed up, settling down and purring like a miniature outboard motor. That sounds adorable. I struggled to put together an itinerary for the next couple of days through the haze of exhaustion. Talk to the vampire, locate missing husband, avoid the wrath of the White Council, find the killer before he found me. An unpleasant thought, but I decided I wasn't going to let that bother me either, and curled up to go to sleep. Okie dokie. Well, that was fun, and a lot longer than it should have been. Of course, I spent like 2.5 minutes at the start just saying random things. How many chapters are in this book again? I forgot. Okay, about 30. Just about. Oh, 27, I think. Anyway, let me know what you guys think. I'm about to start reading the other book. I hope it's a good one. Let me know what you guys think of it, and hopefully it'll give me some insight into the stuff I'm trying to write. Although I have an idea for a story, I'm going to start working on it later today. I hope you guys are still out there thinking about what you'd like to see. If you have a favorite superhero, or if you had a favorite superpower that you'd want, let me know, and maybe I can make a character based off of you. Anyway, until next time, goodbye everybody. I don't know if I'm going to upload this first, or wait till I have them both.